Well, hello, boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review. Late, but a review nonetheless. The horror comedy Abigail, which is directed by Radio Silence. It stars Alicia Ware, Melissa Barrera, Dan Stevens, Katherine Newton, Will Catlett, Kevin Durant, August Cloud, and Giancarlo Espestino. This film, the premise of Abigail, so to speak, the film follows a group of kidnappers who capture the daughter of a powerful underworld figure and demand $50 million upon her release, unaware that the little girl is actually a vampire. Yes, this film kind of slipped through the cracks for me. Not slipped through the cracks to the extent that I didn't realize it was in theaters, or I forgot it was in theaters, or I didn't want to see it. I actually wanted to see this movie when it was released in theaters earlier in April, but I just couldn't get around to doing it. Super busy this month, but I was able to squeeze it in just the other day, and I was debating on whether to review it because it's so late. You know, the movie probably about to be out of theaters in a week or so, but I felt I had to review it because I enjoyed Abigail. Abigail was a real good horror comedy, and it was a great mixture of both. Radio Silence, as I've mentioned before, they directed this film. Both gentlemen, they directed the last two Scream films in that franchise, but my favorite film from those two guys was Ready or Not, which came out, I don't know, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I absolutely love Ready or Not. I think Ready or Not was one of the best films to come out that year, and definitely one of the best horror films to come out in recent memory. And what made it so unique and so enjoyable to watch was the great mixture of horror and comedy. You know, it was a perfect mix, perfect blend, so to speak. And I truly enjoyed that. Going into their Scream films, they were all right. You know, they didn't knock me off of my feet or anything like that. They were Scream films, you know. But I was encouraged with this film, you know, because it felt from the trailer that we were going into Ready or Not territory. And you had me there. That's why I was upset it took me so long to get to it. But it was well worth the wait. This was a truly enjoyable film. It is exactly what the log line says it is. If you're going to see this to watch a little ballerina vampire girl tear people apart, that's what you get. You won't be disappointed. If you're going in there for some philosophical, thought-provoking plot line, yeah, you're going to be disappointed. Yeah, but luckily for me, I wasn't looking for that. I was looking to see a little ballerina girl rip people apart, and that's what I got. And let's start with this ballerina girl, Alicia Ware. Wow, this is her first film, and you couldn't tell. She held this film. This was her movie, and she held it. She put the weight of this movie on her shoulders, and she did an excellent job as this vampire, as this killing machine, as this little girl. And when she needed to convey that she was centuries years old, she conveyed that. You felt that she was centuries years old. You know, like, man, this girl been here before. I mean, what an excellent job. I cannot wait to see more from her. She is going to be an exceptional actress. She really did an excellent job, because being as though this movie's called Abigail, Abigail had to hit. It didn't matter if you had Academy Award winning actors in the supporting cast. If Abigail didn't work, the movie falls apart. Abigail worked. Alicia Ware worked in this film. Very good. When she was terrifying, she was terrifying. When she had silly parts, you know, comedy parts, she nailed those, man. I mean, the heavy acting parts, she nailed those. I mean, Very good job. Wasn't expecting that type of performance in this film. I really wasn't. I was just expecting your little run of the mill horror film. And it is that too. It is that. you know, we're not trying to reinvent the reel here. It is that. It's a basic horror film, a basic vampire film, but a little more. It just sprinkle with just a tad bit more salt to it. Uh, Melissa Barrera, who is reteaming with Radio Silence, as you know, she was a part of the last two Scream films with Radio Silence directing, and we all know the story. In case you don't know, she was let go from the Scream franchise because of her support on social media with for Pakistan, and that caused a big uproar. And she was ultimately let go from the franchise, which is mind-boggling to me, because well, that's a different subject for a different show. But anyways, she is somewhat of the lead of this film, and as much as I didn't too much care for her in the Scream films, not that I didn't care for her, I didn't care for her performances in those movies. I thought they were dry, bland, and whatever, and really questioned her acting skills in those films. In this film, much better, much better. She actually did a really good job here. I enjoyed her in this film. Dan Stevens is always awesome. He killed it, no pun intended, in this film. He was awesome in this movie. He delivered everything you needed him to deliver. The comedy, the scares, the dread, all that was he delivered. Dan Stevens is a treasure. I think a hidden treasure, because you don't see him in much. You see him in some things. He pop up in a lot of things, but I mean, as far as being the lead, as far as Hollywood putting him in a franchise, you don't see him in that. Now that could be his choice. Maybe he don't want to be a leading man in films. There are actors who are like that, and I get it, but he needs to be. He needs to be. He is awesome in this film. Catherine Newton, who is another one whose acting skills I questioned in the past, did amazing. This is probably her best performance, in my humble opinion. I loved her in this role. I mean, really good. Really, really good. Started off kind of shaky. But as the film went on, I guess as she got comfortable in the role, really nailed it. Especially the arc of her character. Really nailed it. Angus Cloud, R.I.P. He passed away a couple of years ago. This was his last performance. He was decent because he was Angus Cloud. The poor fella. I really miss him. I love him, bro. I really did. From Euphoria, and that's the only thing I think I've seen him in, Euphoria. But I loved his character there. I loved his character here because he was the same guy. He was the exact same guy that he was from Euphoria. But I love him in Euphoria, so I loved him here. But the MVP of this movie, aside from Alicia Ware, is Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, and no, not the basketball player, Kevin Durant, the actor. He nailed this movie. His comedy was gut busting, laughing out loud comedy. I mean, gut busting. And it was deadpan delivery from Kevin Durant that I haven't seen from him before. I've seen him be funny in movies before, but not to this degree. I loved him because he played kind of this oof, this kind of a dim-witted muscle man for this underworld of crime or whatever, but he nailed it. And I loved him, man. I enjoyed him so much in this movie. I mean, halfway through the movie with him, I immediately told myself, he is the star of this movie. He stole this movie. He stole this movie. I loved Kevin Durant in this film. The direction by Radio Silence here. This was a decent outing. It wasn't great. I would say if I had to rank the three films that I mentioned before that they directed, the last two Scream films and Ready or Not, it's better than the Scream films, but not as good as Ready or Not. So it'll be second on the list for me. But this was a good film. It was good. But I don't know if it was budget restraints or whatever the case may be. It just at parts this film looked kind of choppy in parts. It just didn't look crisp in areas of the film. But it was only in parts. It wasn't the whole film, and kind of you can glance over. It's stuff you probably wouldn't notice, but me watching movies so long and so much, I noticed stuff like that. It is a curse. It's not a gift. It's a curse. Trust me. This is a vampire film. So, yes, it is bloody. And yes, it is gory. And you don't get to that point to maybe the last 45 minutes of the movie, but it makes up for the it makes up for the time it didn't have it. It was so gory at the end of this movie. I have never seen so much blood in a 30 to 45 minute time frame in my life. And this is somebody who watched The Shining and saw hundreds of gallons of blood pour out of an elevator. This tops that. It was bloody at the end of this movie, but it was beautiful. the sick mind, Kevin, loved every minute of it. It was gory as all get out, and it needed to be. It's a vampire movie. It's a vicious monster movie, and you needed blood. It had to be like that. Wasn't expecting it in the way that it happened. Like when the vampires, yes, slight spoiler, plural, vampires are vanquished. It is bloody. So prepare yourself for that if you haven't seen it. But completely enjoyable. Love the little twist at the end. There is a little twist in case you don't know the true story of this film. Not true, but the story behind this movie. It's an actual reboot, and the reboot, the film that Abigail is based off of, spoils it if you if you see the title of it. But yes, it is a nice twist at the end. I'm not going to say it here, but it's not really a big spoiler. You kind of figure it out throughout the film, what it is, and who it is and whatever. But it is what it is. I really enjoyed Abigail, and I slick style regret not going to see it when it first came out. But I am so happy that I did see it. Abigail gets a letter grade of a B minus. Really, really good film for what it is. This is what it is. It's all laid out for you. You know what it is. So don't expect to go in thinking that your world would change after seeing this, that you will be enlightened to change the world after watching this movie. No, this is a horror film. This is a film about a ballerina girl vampire, and that's what it is. And for that reason, it gets a B minus. I would like to know, did you check out Annabelle, and how did you like it? Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also look up the show on social media. Just search for the KB Radio Network on all social media platforms. That includes YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel. Like this video, please. Also, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you're currently listening to the Concession Stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Abigail. Can't wait to speak to you on the next go around. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.